Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Jade. It is great to have you here. So as you can tell by the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking about some books that I feel like should be on your fall TBR and some books that are on my fall TBR. You're probably asking, Jade, it is August. Why are you talking about books to read for a season that is not yet here? And to those asking, I say this. One, you can never be too prepared to add books to your TBR. I feel like that is such a fun part of reading. It's just picking out the books that you want to read for the coming week or month. Normally people do monthly TBRs, but these are a couple books that I feel like it should be on y'all's radar when fall comes. Fall is one of my favorite seasons ever. I love going to class, walking in the fall, because all the little Halloween decorations are out, the fall decorations. It's just such a fun time to go to class because people are excited for Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, winter break, all these different things. It's nice to walk to class and the chill. It's such a fun time for me because I always compare it to me being in school, and it's just such a fun time to be in school in my opinion. Spring semester, there's no breaks. You have nothing to look forward to except for the end of the year. But for the fall semester, you have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. The end of the semester means that you get the winter break. It's just so fun, and I'm so excited for fall. Setting aside the fact that I love being in school during the fall time, I just love Halloween. I love in my neighborhood, people put out a lot of fall and Halloween decorations. It's just such a fun time, and it's one of my favorite seasons ever. But don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and to follow me on my other socials at Jade's Books 5 over on Instagram and TikTok. I do a lot of short form content over on my Instagram, and I post all of my bookish reviews and just random bookish posts over on my Instagram. So go look at those over there, and let's continue on and talk about some books that I believe should be on your fall TBR. So we're going to start off strong with one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I first read this book last fall. I was going on a lot of walks then, and so I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to this audiobook on most of my walks, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Just the vibes of the neighborhood. Also, a lot of my neighbors were putting up Halloween and fall decorations. There was pumpkins and witches and ghosts everywhere, and so this definitely set the scene for this book. But aside from the vibes just being very fun vibes for fall, I just absolutely love this book in general. But for those of you who don't know what The Dead Romantics is about, it's about our main character. Her name is Florence. She's a ghostwriter for a very famous romance writer, but after a really bad breakup, she believes that love no longer exists. However, she does have a deadline to meet, and her new editor was so gracious enough to give her an extension, so she has no choice to really just put all of her feelings beside her and just, the past is in the past. It is what it is type of vibe. But when a phone call from home has her going back to her hometown after a decade, and she has spent her whole adult years running away from, because her family owns a funeral parlor, and so when she was growing up, she was just seen as weird or creepy and low-key bullied by a lot of the kids her age. But when she shows up there, she finds a ghost on her doorstep, and it's not just any ghost, it is her new editor. So he died apparently. Florence did not know that at all, but he apparently died, and she is the only one that can see or hear him, and they both don't know why, but they believe that he can only be he can only move on once Florence writes the book and kind of gets over her love is dead type of outlook. This book was so cute, you guys. I cannot stress this enough. I definitely recommend this. If there's any book that you take away from this video, please let it be The Dead Romantics. I absolutely love this one. It is such a it's a fun book, but it's also just a book about love and grief and finding your place in the world. It is just, there is so many layers within this book, and I definitely recommend that you put it on your fall TBR. Next up, we have Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Fun little story about this book. I don't remember if I've said this in my other videos, but when this book first came out, I was too embarrassed to go to the bookstore to buy it, and so I read it on my phone, and then I told my sister that, and she got it for me last Christmas. Oh my gosh, I thought it was so funny. It was just such a funny gift that I had told her that months and months before, and so the fact that she remembered and decided to buy it for me for Christmas, it was just so funny. I was so happy that she did that. But for those of you who don't know what this book is about, it's about a main character. Her name is Misery. Her father is a member of the Council of Vampires or something. He's a very high up member, and so they need an alliance with the werewolves, and so he's you know what, my daughter Misery, she can marry their alpha. And Misery's So Misery reluctantly agrees to the arranged marriage, but only because she like has her own separate reasons. There's something else at play for Misery other than just marrying the alpha of the werewolves, that she believes being married to him will help her in her little quest. And I'm not going to spoil anything. You have to read the book, obviously. But this one was actually really fun. This was very different from other things that I've read and very different from Allie Hazelwood's other books. But yeah, I definitely recommend that you give this one a try. If you love like supernatural type of books and if you love arranged marriage, this is honestly a fun one, especially for the fall. The next book that I'm going to recommend to y'all is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Think like a gothic fantasy for this book. Like it's just very like, I picture the setting very dark, very foggy, like just the sun is never out. So just think like gothic fantasy. But our main character, her name is Signa. Signa was orphaned as a baby, and each one of her caretakers over the years have all prematurely passed very mysteriously. They each met a very untimely end, okay? So after her last caretaker passed away, she goes to live with her like very distant relatives, her last living relatives, and she finds them all dealing with like different types of problems like addictions, grief, illnesses. They're just not a very lucky bunch. And part of the grief that they're dealing with is that because her relatives' names are the Hawthorns mother passed away. Well, the ghost of the mother appears to Signa and basically says, I did not die of an illness, I was poisoned, therefore I was murdered. And so Signa is like, okay, what? She ends up making an alliance with Death himself in order to figure out who killed Hawthorne's mother and to help prevent that person from poisoning the other members of the family. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember much about this book. I do remember I actually just don't remember much about this book. I could not even tell you. I remember I enjoyed it though. Do recommend this book. It was very like, just the only thing I can remember about it was just, it gave me gothic novel vibes. And so it's like a mystery, a dark gothic mystery. So if this seems like it's up your alley, I definitely will say give it a try because I enjoyed it. I just don't remember much about it. I apologize. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book was everywhere back in the day, but if you haven't read it yet, I think fall will be the time for you to read it. It is about this night circus that arrives like without warning. People go to sleep and then the next day when they wake up, it's just there. And it's just very like, it's such a unique experience to all of like the townspeople. And within the circus, these two young magicians are like competing with each other. And unknowns to them, it's really like one man will be left standing type of thing. This one did give me like fall vibes. I read this, I think 2 years ago. It's not my favorite book in the world, but I know that it is loved by a lot of other people. So I do recommend that you give this one a try as well. The next book is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. Yes. So this one, think of it like Romeo and Juliet meets The Witches of East End, if anyone ever watched that show. So this book follows our two families, the Antonovas and the Fedorovs, and they have been feuding with each other for like years and years and years. For like the last decade or so, they have been at a stalemate, and they have mostly like left each other be for the most part. But 12 years later, when an incident occurs, it brings both families back into like this hunting ground, and it leaves both families on like the brink of disaster. This book was so addicting. Remember it being like very fast paced. I needed to know what was going to happen, and so I read this one super quickly. It was so interesting. You know, the book will surprise you. I feel like it did surprise me. And so I know I just said like Romeo and Juliet plus Witches of East End, but we have Romeo and Juliet because of the feuding families, and the Witches of East End because they are like witches and sorcerers and like warlocks and all these different things with like all the witches and the magic and everything. I definitely recommend that you read this one in the coming months. Next, I have a book that like 16-year-old Jade loved so much, and that is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. So this book follows our main character. Her name is Stevie. She is a student at Ellingham Academy, and it is a very famous private school in Vermont, and should I say infamous, because a few years after its opening back like in the 30s or 40s, the owner's daughter and wife were both kidnapped, never to be found again. Like never to be seen again. The only clue that was left was a riddle that ended with the words truly devious. It very quickly became one of America's most famous, most infamous unsolved mysteries. And so when Stevie enrolls in this academy, she is like, you know what? I'm going to be the one to solve the truly devious case. But that's not really where our story starts, because Stevie very quickly realizes that Truly Devious is still around and he has made a little return to Ellingham Academy. So this is YA. I definitely recommend it. I love this book when I was in high school. It was so fun, it was just so the mystery was, in my opinion, very well written and thought out. It is a trilogy, so there are 2 more books after this, but just each book ends on a cliffhanger that leaves you wanting more, and Maureen Johnson really just did her thing with these books. I definitely recommend them if you want a fun YA mystery. So the next book I have to recommend for you is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. So Amelia and Victoria are sisters, more specifically twins. They never have secrets with one another. They're always together. They're just your typical sisters. But one day Victoria does not come to family dinner, and so Amelia goes out to go look for her, and she finds her twin sister dead and her body desecrated beyond belief. Our story takes off when Amelia decides that she's going to find out who killed her sister and just reap revenge on the person or people who did it. While doing this, Amelia meets a prince of hell. His name is Wrath, and he promises that he will help her solve the murder. And so she's a little reluctant because it's a prince of hell, the stories say that you just never make a deal with one of them, but she reluctantly forms a partnership with him in order to figure out who killed her sister and how to stop them from killing again. That one was so fun. I remember it being just so addicting. I needed to know what was going to happen. I needed to know what was going to happen with Amelia and Wrath, and just with the murder and the mystery aspect of it. It is set in Italy, but back then, and so it's just fun vibes all around, and I definitely recommend that you add that to your fall TBR. That is a part of a trilogy, so there are 2 more books after that, and then there's a spin-off called The Throne of the Fallen. So if you fall in love with those books and you love it, don't worry, there are more. So next book I have to recommend to you is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This one was so silly and so unserious, and I will go ahead and say that I recommend this if you just want a fun, little fast-paced, unserious romance read where just nothing makes sense, and the fact that nothing makes sense, everything makes sense. So the book follows our main character. Her name is Cassie. She is a struggling artist, and she is scared that she's going to lose her apartment because she has no money, and so she's looking on this, I think it's Craigslist or something, for these cheap apartments in the heart of Chicago, and she just doesn't want to meet anybody creepy, but there is this listing that comes up that she believes is just too good to be true, because it is an apartment in the heart of Chicago for very cheap. In her head she's okay, who would rent a room that cheap? There's just no way. Well, her new roommate's name is Frederick J. Fitzwilliam. She they kind of cross paths a little bit, and she's wow, this guy's hot, but he's mostly gone at night. He's gone all night. He's at the apartment all day. They just don't really see each other often, but he leaves her a bunch of these cute little notes, and she's okay, this guy's a little odd, because what is he doing all night? He's literally gone until the sun comes up. But he's also really sweet, because his notes give her a sweet side of him that she didn't really see coming. But all of this changes whenever she finds a bag of blood in the fridge, and so she just is okay, what? There is no way I'm gonna let this slide. I need to bring this to his attention, right? And so she does, and that is where our story unfolds. Again, if you want just a silly little romance, a little supernatural romance read, this is the one for you. I feel if you don't like those things, you definitely won't like this book. But if you do give this one a shot, because it was just very unserious and so silly and very fun to read. So those are all the books that I have to recommend for you to put on your fall TBR, little books to have on your radar for when the weather starts getting a bit colder, the leaves start falling, the decorations start popping out. So now I want to tell you a couple of books that are on my fall TBR. I'm going to preface by saying I really do not know what any of these books are about, as if you've watched some of my videos, you know that I like to go into a lot of my books blind, and so I wanted to mash this up with books on your fall TBR, because I just don't explain a lot of these books really well that I haven't read. In general, I don't explain books very well, which I'm working on, but especially these ones that I haven't read, because I don't want to know really what they're about, but I will try my best to read a little bit of the blurb just to give you an idea of what the book is about. So this first book that is on my fall TBR is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I know absolutely nothing, okay? I do not even have the book yet. It is not in my possession. It is still at the bookstore, you guys. I have not bought this, but I'm assuming by the title, The Ex-Hex, it is about this witch who hexes her ex. And maybe something goes wrong with that. Maybe they get back together. I do not know, but it does look interesting. The cover looks interesting. I have heard people talk about it. Some have said good things, some have said not good things. I'm a very easily entertained person, and I love like just silly little romance books, like things that just kind of like little palate cleansers. And so this one is on my fall TBR, guaranteed. I will read this one by the end of the year. The next book on my fall TBR is You Again by Kate Goldberg. I do not know if I'm going to read this one. It is going to be on my like official fall TBR. The reason why I'm a little like hesitant is because I've heard people say that they do not like the male main character in this, and that they have DNF'd it because of that reason. Yeah, so I don't know what this one's about either. I think they have like a friends, like they're kind of enemies to lovers, but then they become friends and then they, I'm assuming, become lovers. I don't know what this one's about. It's set in New York though. I don't know, but it just seems very like fall. Like, look at this. Doesn't this look very cute? Again, I do not know what this one's about, but I've heard nothing but not very fun things about it. I'm going to be hesitant going into this book, and I'm hesitant just to talk about it right now, but we shall see. The next book I have is Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I think last year or maybe the year before, and I never got around to reading Good Girl Bad Blood, but I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and so I do want to continue on with the series. I don't want to say what this is about because it's a sequel to that last book, and so I feel like it would just ruin what's happening, but I really don't know what this one's about. I just know like the gist of it, so I'm not going to explain it to y'all. Y'all go read Good Girl Bad. That should also be on your fall TBR. Why didn't I think of that? I don't know. But y'all go read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. That's also really fun, and I definitely recommend that one that y'all read. It's also a TV show on Netflix, so you can read the book and then watch the TV show. Yeah, y'all go do that, and then let's read this one together. So the next book that I want to read when fall comes around is Modern Divination by Isabel Agajanian. Please forgive me if I mispronounce that. I do not know what this one's about. It does say that some things you destroy because you love, make no promises, tell no one what you are, and never stay the night. I bought this book I think last year, and I never just got around to reading it. But I remember, you know how like on TikTok they like post sentences of a book, and it's to like entice you to pick up that book, and you're like, what? I want to read that. I'm pretty sure I fell victim to that with this book, and I immediately bought it, and I just never picked it up. But I do plan on picking it up this season, or I guess next season technically, since it's still summer. But I do plan on picking it up during the fall. Hopefully. We shall see. We shall see if this book is money well spent, is what I'm trying to say. The next book that I have that I want to read when fall comes around is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This book was so popular back in the day. If y'all remember, if y'all were like on BookTube in 2019, 2018, maybe 2020, this book was just that girl. Like, everyone was talking about Miss Libba Bray. Everyone was talking about The Diviners. I've been wanting to read this book since then. Now, I think I bought this book just last year, maybe the year before, which is still a long time for me to have a book that I have not read, and it seems interesting, and I really want to read this for the fall because it has like it says like, do you believe there are ghosts and demons and diviners among us? I was gonna say I think it has like a lot of these like supernatural elements, and so I'm assuming it does because it says it does, but it's set in New York City in the 20s, and like you have like these speakeasies and everything. I don't know who a diviner is, but something dark and evil has awakened, so this seems like it'd be perfect to read before Halloween or on Halloween or following Halloween, and so I'm definitely excited to read this one. If anyone has read this one, let me know what y'all think, and if it's bad, just say like, hey, this was okay. You know, don't deter me from reading it, because I hope that this is also money well spent. You know what? Any book is money well spent, because you are just supporting people and just buying their things and buying their art, and hopefully it's not AI, and we are supporting, I don't know, can you tell I'm getting delusional? The last book that is like, I'm showing y'all that's on my fall TBR. I'm sure as the weeks go on, I'm going to add more. But that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Sager or Sager? I don't know. Let me know. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. This one is about these murders that happened in the 20s in Maine. And it was very bloody, very horrible, very tragic. But now it is just reduced to a little schoolyard chant. That chant is, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. So I'm guessing they're gonna try to like prove that it was not Lenora. Oh no, Lenora was never proven to have killed her family. So that happened in the 20s. It's now 1983 and Kit arrives at a decaying Hope's End, which is like where the family murders happened. Kit goes there to care for Lenora, and I'm guessing they're gonna try to help Lenora piece the events of what happened at the family manor and how everyone was just like massacred and everything. I, for one, am actually a little excited about that book. I read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and I did not enjoy that one a lot. So I'm going to give him another chance. I might give him multiple chances because he has a lot of other books out. But yes, this has been a very chaotic video, which is on par for a lot of the rest of my videos, if y'all guys have watched them, and I apologize. It's been a very crazy couple of weeks. I started school this week. Last week, I was not wanting to do nothing because I just knew school was coming and I knew I was not going to be able to not do nothing. So I was trying to do a lot of nothing last week, which just prevented me from posting on a lot of my social media accounts. But I am back and I have a lot of energy and I just cannot wait to start back up again. And I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe to follow along for more videos, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Okay guys, bye.